All these rumors are fun to talk about. And Red Bull hasn't blown up yet.
Alex Albon's birthday, and his gift, Logan Sargent's car.
With the drain covers, why is this such a big issue?
That's what I'm saying. Alonso more and more is looking like Aaron Rodgers.
He's geriatric. We just kind of want him for merit mark.
You cannot win a constructor's battle when your second driver is not performing.
Grab your popcorn, folks. Things are getting crazy.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina. I'm here with Steven, Jason, and Christina. Tristan couldn't be here, so we ran it back with Christina again because she filled in greatly for Jason last time.
Gotta pull a Jack Doohan.
I'm everyone's favorite new replacement.
You're the new rookie. Anyways, Australia was wild.
Sure
Absolutely
was.
Insane race. But as always, before we get into that, headlines. Oscar Piastri, before his home race, McLaren decided to re-sign.
Someone isn't very happy.
Was anybody... I'm not like... This is to be expected, I feel
It
like.
is.
Yeah, I mean...
This is the right move.
His contract wasn't going to expire till 26.
Yeah.
So everyone knew it was probably going to get extended anyways.
I mean, hey, McLaren looked into Max Verstappen. They said, oh, we're not paying that much. You're like, okay, yeah, we'll stick with Austria. And that's that.
Now Lando and Oscar get to grow old together.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be
They're
great.
cause each other a lot of gray hairs because of how crazy they are.
Yeah.
I think that's Zach Brown's going to cause a lot of white hairs, for being honest.
I mean, they're so close.
They're so tight, yeah.
Every race, I think, is going to be a shootout between them two.
But the
As
way
it
I
should.
see it is by 28, Piastri will be ahead of Lando. And the reason
You
I
would say that.
Yeah, well, the
You would
reason
say
I say
that.
that is because I
Because
think
he's older?
Oscar has more raw talent than Lando Norris. Lando
She's
has
just
more
a Lando hater.
experience.
Facts,
So-
though.
Lando is a
Facts.
very, very good driver, but he also has his experience on his side, which is why, monumentally over the course of the season, those kind of little points add up, those little things, those little qualifyings.
Hey, I'm
They
going
add
to
up.
say
so
is
right now, he is the better driver. In my
Oscar
opinion,
made
out
a
of the two.
mistake. Lando didn't.
They
That's
both
all I'm
made the
saying.
They both made
Mistake.
mistakes.
He
Oscar
just
did
got
it worse.
unlucky. Yeah, he got worse. But what I thought was interesting about this announcement was it was subsequently followed very quickly by an announcement saying that McLaren had actually inquired about Max Verstappen to his management team before they signed Oscar.
Hey,
Granted, I don't think Oscar take any offense to this.
No.
Every team on the grid wants Max Verstappen.
I was going to say, if
Yeah.
you don't, no matter what your situation is, I don't care what it is, you're going to investigate Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
It's like,
You can't-
Especially
you have to.
Especially if
You
you have a
have
better
to.
car than the car he's
Yeah.
currently in.
and there's a chance
absolutely.
he was going to leave like last year.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what was the funniest part was Max talking to I think it was the Telegraph after, and he was saying, well, they talked to my management team. Obviously, they didn't talk to me, but as
Well,
soon as
they
they
didn't get
found
that far.
out, as soon as they found out how much I was worth, they went away. They were like, never mind.
If you want your team to be a one-driver team with no driver number 2, call Max Verstappen.
It's kind of like F1 fantasy. If you want a really, really top driver, he's going to be your only good driver. Like
Yeah.
the other driver is
Yeah.
going to be not that all 20 drivers on F1 are good drivers, but they're just
Well.
monumentally better. You have your Maxes, your Landos. They're just that much better than the rest. So
Yeah, Russell, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out
Yeah.
for
how'd
him?
that turn out?
I mean, he beat his teammate, and he finished on the podium.
Yes, he
so-
beat a
His
rookie.
teammates
He
are
beat an
rookie.
18-year-old rookie.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Lewis tied with two-time champion Alonso in his rookie year. So
Hey, who has
And
more
he
points
beat-
than
he
Ferrari?
beat
Who has more
Lewis.
points than
he
Ferrari?
beat Lewis in rookie.
Who has more
machinery.
points than Ferrari?
George Russell alone.
Yeah, to be fair.
Sadly.
Anyways,
Steak
let's
looking
talk
real
about,
good right now. Not gonna lie.
No, that's insane. We'll talk about it in a second. But first, I want to talk about the new FIA technical directive, which was, from my understanding, this is the same directive that's supposed to go into place in Spain, and they're just moving it forward.
That's what I thought.
Now effective immediately. It's just that Mini-DRS, that stupid Mini-DRS. That
Oh, the flappy wing?
So that's essentially what they're trying to correct.
Yeah.
I think McLaren's gonna be. It's gonna be interesting to see if McLaren is caught out by this because they've been very consistent in their narrative of we changed it and it's not gonna affect us. But if it is, then who's using the Mini-DRS? Because if it's a back-to-back team, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
So I don't know.
I
Red Bull,
mean,
we
Red
shall
Bull would be
see.
pushing for this if it wasn't a top
McLaren
team.
pioneered it. When
Yeah.
there's a new innovation like that, it's either one, do you try and copy, or two, do you complain and try and get it outlawed?
Yeah.
And it
Someone
looks like
probably
are
tried to
complaining.
recreate it and they failed and they're like, oh, you can't do this anymore.
Hey, it was the same deal, like the double diffuser in 2009. Same thing, except then the FIA just said, nah, it's legal, it's fine. and everybody had to try and copy it. But it
Yeah.
looks like this one is just getting straight up outlawed.
Yeah.
We shall
I don't
see.
know. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. I just want to know who's gonna be affected by it realistically, because like if Red Bull's the one calling it out, then you have to assume it's a top
it's not
4
gonna
team.
bother them. It's
Right?
gonna
It's
bother
not going to
McLaren.
be something that Red Bull's going to be affected by. It's
Yeah.
not going to be something that Stake is going to be affected by, because no one, granted, they do have more points than Ferrari, which is crazy, but no one
It's true.
expected them to be there. And realistically, in a dry race, they're not going to be. So I don't think that Red Bull will go through the trouble of complaining if it wasn't one of the top 4 teams that this is affecting. So maybe it is McLaren. Maybe McLaren is saying that they're not doing it anymore, but it's because they found a way to get through that static testing. That's what they had before. And now that they're going to do more motion, like things with cameras and stuff, it's not going to pass the test. And so
Yeah,
we
we'll
shall see. But let's go straight into the weekend. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we're not even going to get into FP, because to be completely fair, free practice for the first race of the year means absolutely nothing. They're just like going around and trying to learn the track for the rookies, and make those like fine tuning. One day Max was horrible, the next day he was great, and he ended up on the podium. So frankly, the one thing I want to take from free practice and talk about though is Ollie Behrman.
Poor guy.
Ollie, poor Haas, poor Ollie.
Mm-mm.
I think he's the worst off of all the rookies.
Yeah.
If I'm being
Yeah. I mean,
honest.
Hadjar
He
in the
didn't set a
race,
but he didn't set a lap in quali.
Yeah.
There's no time. He had a request to be able to race. He didn't set a lap in quali. He got almost no free practice running because of the crashes. So it's like I think he's arguably worse off, even if he did finish the
Do you
race.
know what I think
But he-
this might be? Is that like when he filled in for last year, he had a teammate that would coach him and let him use his
Yeah.
setup and talk him through the car and teach
True,
the car.
true.
Because he was like the fill-in driver and obviously wanted him to do his best.
Yeah.
And it's a
But now
Ferrari.
he's actually facing off against his teammate.
And his teammate's Esteban Ocon.
Yeah.
I mean,
who
yeah,
is
I was gonna
probably
say
giving him
we've
none
talked
of
about
that.
this
Yeah.
before on the podcast about really it being about a teammate like Esteban Ocon that's not going to give you anything. He's notorious for not being nice to his teammates. Like him and Pierre have a horrible relationship, and I don't think that there's many teammates that can say like, "Oh, we're friends,"
Yeah.
right? So it's tough.
You know what the crazy thing is, though? I don't know if y'all will feel the same way, but I feel like Ollie Behrman is not I think he's more talented than some of the other rookies, for sure.
I don't think he's
Personally.
I don't
Jury's out
think
right
he's
now.
the most talented rookie.
Well, no, I wouldn't say
All I
that
know
either.
is-
I'm saying he's talented.
Who,
There's
wait,
He didn't crash.
who is the most? Who do you think is the most talented rookie after one race? Just what you've seen, or if you watch
Just
F2,
based
you've
on
seen
that
it.
I mean, if we're just
nothing else.
if we're
Based
just
on-
yeah,
based on what you've seen of that person. I'm not saying
In
for example,
in
if
total,
I
or
watched
just that race alone.
no, like in total, like for example, I watch
Oh,
F2,
wow.
so for me, I know who I find most impressive based on how they reacted to Formula 1 and F2.
I mean, if we're looking at it as a whole, I would say either Gabriel Bertolotto or Kimi Antonelli.
Is that the consensus across the board? Do you have a different answer,
I
Christina?
mean, Antonelli's been talked up a lot. Sorry, my name's not Christina. Go ahead.
no, you
Oh,
can
hi,
go
Christina.
too. You can go too.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously, it's 2017 Indy 500 Rookie of the Year,
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso. But behind him,
How could I? How could I?
How could you not? Yeah.
It's
That's my
Kimi
fault.
Antonelli's
My-
favorite
Yeah.
rookie.
I feel like an idiot.
Exactly. So behind him is probably Kimi because he's been talked up by so much by Toto.
Yeah.
He's been doing good otherwise, and obviously he proved it today. Even though he had terrible qualifying, he kept it
Yeah.
on track. Unlike almost all the other rookies.
Yeah,
And he had
including
some really
Fernando
good
Alonso.
overtakes.
Yeah,
I
including
think
Fernando.
Lawson has a lot of talent though, and this is
He's not a rookie, though.
unfortunate.
In this conversation, I would have
He's
put him in
not.
the rookies. Man's done what 11
Yeah,
races.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say in this particular
Pass.
conversation, in general, I do put him as a rookie, but I think for this one specifically, I think it's Gabriel Bertolezzi. And the reason I say that is because he had a very similar trajectory to Oscar Piastri.
And
Yeah.
We
she
look at
loves
what
a driver
Oscar's
from
doing
Brazil.
now. Obviously, I have the little bias, obviously from Brazil, but I think that it's so crazy, and I really do think you can watch it back. I do think that there's a problem on the car before he crashed. If you watch
Yeah.
that rear tire, I think there was a suspension issue. What the Brazilian media is portraying, granted, they're biased. They are Brazilian media,
course.
but that is what they're saying. Is it was a suspension issue. he may have caused it by going over a curb or something earlier in the lap or losing it,
Sure.
but the actual crash itself that took him out caused by a suspension issue, which led to him crashing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see who people thought was the best rookie. Let's move into qualifying. Let's talk about terrible rookies. Almost like half of them out in Q1.
Well, that's gonna be the next one. Actually, you just reminded me that
And in
Gabriel,
good
I think, was like the
cars.
only one to make it out of Q1.
Him and Isaac and Jack, but they were all came out in Q2. So it was nobody. There were no rookies
Oh,
in Q3.
he was just outside of Q3. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
So, but Kimmy was just unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think we saw some of the best of Kimmy though. I think this is kind of a crazy statement, but I think that what we saw at Kimi Antonelli throughout the race, and even throughout, and qualifying was really tough, but
Yeah.
throughout the race because of how he qualified was very Max Verstappen-esque.
Yeah.
He's
Dude
he's been
finished
compared-
fourth.
I'm
I
sure
mean,
Toto's
He's been
going around
compared.
going, see, look,
I
I
told
found the
you.
next Max Verstappen.
I told
You all
you.
said maybe he wasn't ready. I'm telling you he is, and I
Yeah.
just proved you all wrong.
Absolutely. But
it's always gonna be about Max Verstappen for Toto. It's too funny to me.
he was
It
also
really
knocked
is.
out by 0.009.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it was
9
like he
millions.
was- yeah, I don't know. And it's not like he was very, very far off.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about in qualifying part. Haas is painfully slow.
They are.
They always are.
Yeah.
It sucks
I mean,
because
but
last year
Australia
they were
is one
pretty
of their
good.
fastest tracks. Like historically,
unfortunate.
since
Yeah.
2016, they've
That's sad.
always been the best in Australia. Like they're on track for a podium in 2018
So-
until they had the pit stop.
They've become the new
debacle.
steak.
It's
They
like they
bring-
flipped.
Did they bring a spoon to a knife fight?
Yes.
See, like they bring
Again.
a sport to a knife fight.
Yeah. They're not even bringing what is it?
A
I think it was
spoon.
they're not even bringing a fork to a knife
It's
fight.
a
They're
spork.
bringing a
Bringing a spoon.
spoon. Yeah.
Freaking
So
spork.
It's not a spork. A spork has
Yeah, sport is a lot
sharpness.
better.
here's a question. Do you think
Depends what you're using it for.
What?
What? In a fight, a spork is
Well,
obviously better than a
obviously,
spoon.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about food.
Anyways, here's my question. Red Bull, we've seen where they're at. Even with Max Verstappen in the car, P2 is gonna be their ceiling. I think a lot. Max is gonna win races, but if McLaren is firing on all cylinders, that's their ceiling,
Yep.
right? It's second. It's I can beat one. I can't beat both. I think that's what I've
Yeah.
seen so far.
I agree.
Do you think that Liam Lawson being P18 or Kimi Antonelli was worse? Like, which one arguably
I
is
would
like,
definitely say Liam was worse.
Do you think Liam was, it was Checo reincarnated.
I mean, I was gonna say,
like-
dude was out in Q1.
But
I
so was
mean,
Kimi.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
How many
but-
races? How many F1 races has Kimi done?
yeah, exactly.
Answer that question, and then how many has Liam done?
Yeah.
Liam's car isn't the best, but it's better than those bottom field teams, which he didn't outqualify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
I don't know. I really think Liam is I can vouch for it more. And the reason I say that is because I think the Mercedes is easier to drive than the Red Bull.
Well,
A lot of people have struggled in that Red Bull, and I think that
Yeah.
granted, we make that an excuse, so there's that element of it of like we think nobody can match him, right? But I think that I don't know. I
You're right.
genuinely
Like,
think that
how
it's
many
easier
drivers,
to make excuses for
good
him.
drivers have gone through that car after Daniel
Yeah.
Ricciardo. You've had Pierre
Pierre
Gasly,
Gasly, Alex Albon,
both of them
in
are
the
still
points.
and still racing in F1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had Sergio Perez, who was a great driver before,
Yeah.
and he actually did really well in 2021.
Yeah.
Won a few races in 2022. Won a few races.
It genuinely, maybe this is conspiracy, but I feel like genuinely Red Bull puts probably more parts and more focus to Max's car.
Well,
than
yeah,
anyone
I
else.
obviously.
think that's
Well,
kind of
100%.
But the
But
performance
But I-
difference is so massive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I just
yeah.
think there's
you're
so
right. It's
there's
just
so
difficult
less
to drive.
resources.
But I think that the stigma or the thing that we talked about for a while with Checo that was, are they just giving Checo a different car? Is
I
all of
think
this stuff
so.
going to Max?
High
I
key-
think no, but I think it
We
was
shouldn't be that far
disproven.
behind. Like
I
when
think it was
you're
disproven,
pole
and the reason I
position-
say that is because he's so far off
Yeah.
that really Red Bull would want to give him the same parts or better parts so that at least he's matching Max, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You can put all
That's
your
true.
eggs in one basket all you want, but again, Max, I love. There's a meme of Max looking at the timing at one of the timing screens and then like going like this and being like, and then the caption's
Yeah.
like Max realizing it's gonna be a 1-man team again.
The racing
do
Maxes
think,
are back,
yeah,
baby.
I do think that it's a very similar car. I just
Yeah.
think that car is fundamentally very difficult to drive.
No, I
Yeah.
agree.
So-
I agree. Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of cars
Mm.
that are in the Red Bull family, I was gonna say maybe difficult to drive, but I don't know that our Racing Bull is that tough. It seemed a really solid,
No,
balanced car
Seems
this
like
weekend.
a good car.
Isaac,
Poor guy.
poor guy, right? But in qualifying, he was the highest rookie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
out qualifying a Red Bull, out qualifying a Mercedes. Like, I rate that very highly.
Yeah. And Yuki
Yeah.
did pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Yuki obviously qualified even higher than he did.
Yeah.
Which is to be expected. Again, there's a lot of noise up and down the paddock of, did you make the right choice? Like, are you
Of
sure
course,
about
man.
this?
You know Yuki was
There's
smiling
always gonna be
so
that, too.
hard.
Yeah. But I don't know. What do you think?
I thought it was
How long until there's serious talks of are Yuki or Isaac better than Liam Lawson?
I think if it stays like this,
yeah.
summer break at the latest.
I would
think
say even
end of the
earlier than
year
that,
is
honestly.
The latest, but I hope it would be summer break.
Yeah. I feel like it's gonna be the next 2-3 months, honestly.
I
if it stays the
think-
way it is.
What's crazy too, and this probably people don't agree with this.
Mm.
It's definitely a hot take from a fan perspective, but if you think about it like in detail and you think about it with a Red Bull perspective, Isaac Hadjar is more likely to get that seat than Yuki Tsunoda.
Probably, unfortunately.
And the reason I say that is because Yuki is a Honda driver. You know, Isaac
Yeah.
is a Red Bull driver, and,
Yep.
and Yuki's a Honda driver. And so there's rumors of him dumping ship already, right? There's
Yeah,
rumors of 2026, he's gone. You know,
Yep.
as soon as his contract is up, he's going somewhere where he's going to be valued and asset
Future-
of the sorts where Honda is going. So I don't know.
Future Indy 500 winner Yuki Tsunoda coming in hot.
I don't see that happen.
I don't either,
know.
but it would be funny.
You
Yeah.
see, I'd rather that be Ricardo, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But also, guys, what the? I guess you Red Bull fan, not you Red Bull, you McLaren fans over there. You can tell me what the hell was wrong with the two McLarens at the start of Q3. They were painfully slow compared to the laps that they set earlier in the session and later in the session.
Lando had a very good lap going. He got track limits. That's
So
all.
they were just like warming up, you know. They were just like kind of vibing.
Is that what we're calling it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
you said to yourself that it doesn't matter.
It didn't matter in the end. I mean, I was shocked when that time came up for Oscar.
Hey.
It was 4:19, I think it was, faster than Max's time. I was like, no shot. I was like, there's no way. Like that's insane. The speed they pulled at the end on that Q3 lap, when everything's on the line, was insane.
Yeah.
But it was a little shocking when we came out for Q3, and I was like, what are they doing?
Hey, it
I
happens.
mean,
it
Lando
happens.
did
It can't be
what?
perfect.
One
Can't be
lap,
perfect.
sat in the garage, and then did one more lap, right? Or
Oscar or Lando?
Lando.
Yeah, Lando
Yeah,
just did the one.
so-
I was surprised. I thought that because again, I thought they were just gonna send him out on the used set again to do a banker and then come in for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever and come out on the new set because they had two sets of news for Q3. So I really did think he was gonna come out again. I was surprised when he only came out at the end of the session, but
Hey, it all
knows?
worked out.
We're not driving the cars.
It's facts.
going into the race, there were rumors that Ferrari's setup was
Made for the wet.
wait for the wet, right? It was a
Yeah.
as
I
a
was
Yeah.
wet
banking
setup.
on that.
I saw these
I know you
great
were.
rumors
That's some-
that Ferrari is actually just sandbagging Australia.
Oh, okay.
Why
sure.
not? The whole race. Yep, saving the engine.
I also saw
Absolutely.
something
Thinking
that
ahead
the
already,
last
right?
time in
How
in
long?
2023, I mean in 2003,
Yeah.
Schumacher was like having a record or whatever, and then McLaren won because like the record was broken or whatever. I mean, not McLaren, Ferrari won the drivers and the constructors that year, and then they also only got like 5 points at the first race of the season or something, and it was like really sad. And then that same thing's happening right now because Max Verstappen's whatever his record thingy was that broke,
Yeah.
and then they didn't
It's-
get that many points, so
It's
maybe
crazy.
they're gonna win.
Yeah,
a prophecy.
it's crazy because it's starting to be there's so many like conspiracy theories that F1 fans come up with. The other
Yeah.
one I've seen a lot recently is if you win Australia, you DNF Australia the next year.
Yeah, because it happened.
Happened to Charles, and then it happened to Max. No, Charles, then Max, then Carlos.
So R.I.P. Lando next year.
R.I.P. Lando next year.
Nobody talk to me next year after Australia.
But really, how disappointed do you think Ferrari is? Because Ferrari in preseason testing looked much quicker than they did in Australia. Is it track specific? Is
hope
it like
so.
we're not good
Maybe.
here?
It's too hard to say.
It was a
too early to
wild
say.
race.
It
was,
was
like,
it was
even
a very
overall-
wet race.
But in qualifying, they were still like 4 and 7 or 4 9/10 off. Like
Yeah.
that's a pretty big gap for
Yeah.
qualifying.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
mean, Ferrari did have a chance to win the race.
Ferrari were out qualified by Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a Williams.
But
and
they
a
only did
RB.
one run each, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean Charles finished the session in the pits.
Yeah, like they should have gotten
Yeah, I was
more runs
confused.
in.
I was like, Charles, when are you gonna go out and do another lap? And he just like kind of didn't.
Do
And
you
I went,
think? Do you think that Ferrari saw McLaren's lap and Max's lap being slower than their Q2 and thought the track evolution's gone? We're gonna do one lap and be done with it.
They're just like, it's
they've
not
done
worth it.
crazier things. So that could have been it. So I haven't lost all hope left because yet because they
Remember,
have pace
being
somewhere.
Salulu is the Salulu.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great quote.
Exactly.
That's a Cowboys quote. Right
Like I'm not saying next year's our year
Yeah.
until at least race 5.
It's supposed to
gonna
be
have to
this.
hold
This
back.
is our
Didn't
year.
you say race
Yeah, no,
7
this
earlier?
is our. No, I said 5 in the
You said
chat.
5?
I got
Until
it short.
it's
I got 5.
mathematically
receipts.
impossible, this is our year.
It's not over until it's over, baby.
Anyways, let's move into the race. Or even before the race, let's be so for real. Formation lap. Bye-bye Isaac Hadjob.
Hey,
It's so sad because it's
Yeah.
not his fault. I mean, he's behind the wheel, right? But ultimately,
He just gave it
there's
a little bit
nothing
too much
there.
gas.
Marina did predict this too.
I did predict
Yes,
this.
that's
because
race.
we were
Wow.
texting after.
So we were texting after FP1.
FP1, and I was like, Ollie crashed, tragic, and I was like, no, and she
And
was
I
like,
said-
I thought Isaac was gonna crash first to this race, and
Yeah.
technically for the race part, he did.
He did. So,
Wow. So it's your fault, Marina.
So yeah, it's Marina's
Apparently.
fault.
I just feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Um,
It sucks.
It really does suck. And he was so emotional.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
Luckily, he
Anthony
had
Hamilton.
Yeah,
Was so cute. My mom, I swear to God, she looked right at me and she goes, "Who are you and what have you done with my daughter?"
I was
Like,
gonna say she got a little softy from
because
Mercedes.
No, not from Mercedes. Never. I got softy for the Hamilton family this weekend. I mean, I kept seeing Lewis in his Ferrari suit, and he's just so happy. He's like smiling ear to ear, and it's like it's kitty. It's like a
Well,
kid
yeah,
in a
I
candy
mean,
she's
he-
store.
realizing
And I
her
love it.
hate,
The
Like,
whole
hate
it's
is
so
Ferris
actually
cute.
Bueller
just
edit.
Mercedes hate.
You saw that?
What?
The Ferris Bueller edit.
Yes.
Like Lewis put
I did see
himself
that.
driving the Ferrari of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and
Yeah.
that was like, I can't believe it.
I mean,
was
dude
hilarious
said
and
that
well
like
done.
he feels like he's coming back in the sport for the first time again.
It's
Yeah,
insane what
it's
Ferrari does
insanity.
to a person, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's coming back into the sport for the first time. So now he's a rookie. So now he's doing badly in the car because it's his
Yeah,
first
it-
time.
it-
Yeah.
It's his first time driving a F1 car ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
History's just repeating itself.
when
And like he just took Charles with him, and
Perfect.
well, I mean it's just it's brand new, right? And even he was talking about it after quali. He was like, yeah, apparently, like if it's gonna rain, I'm gonna have to go learn all of the setup stuff, all the stuff on the
Yeah.
steering wheel for rain, because he didn't know it, and it's so new. Like all of these, we've talked about it so many times. 2 teams have the same lineup.
Yeah.
One of them is leading the constructors championship. The other one is Aston. So, I
other one
mean,
has Led Stroll.
yeah. So
Stroll did really good.
really well.
Yeah, and
He
I
did.
was confused.
Stroll is
I think he
really
was
great in the
confused.
wet. I don't think he is. Stroll
I
is
mean,
good
he
in
said
the
his
wet.
only pole position in like mixed
In
conditions.
mixed conditions,
Yeah.
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 He's really good at mixed conditions. I think to say anyone is good in the wet besides Max Verstappen is a little bit questionable, but Lance is good in mixed conditions. That like where it's
Yeah.
drying up, that's where he strives, which we saw this weekend. But I want to go back to Anthony Hamilton because what he said, the interview he gave, he goes, "When I saw what happened to Isaac, my heart literally fell. I really felt bad for him. I know how hard it is to become a Formula One driver. You arrive in F1, there's so much pressure, and when you fail, nothing happens, and that must be the worst feeling. So I acted like a dad the way I would with Lewis." And I was like, "You're so
Yeah,
cute."
and it was
What
so
makes
sweet.
it cuter is the full circle moment of Isaac being like, "Lewis is my idol."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like drivers parade and throughout the weekend he like took like selfies with Lewis and stuff, and then now his dad is coming to comfort him. I
Yeah,
think
like,
it's really
Isaac's
cute.
Lewis's biggest fan. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that brought out. Well, that was aborted start. Then it's like, okay, let's go again. I was like, okay, my heart is back to like a gajillion. Slap one again. Max overtakes Oscar. But then Jack Doohan goes 2, 3, and 5 and was like, you know what? I think I'm good for the day.
Yeah, he's
And
done.
just, I thought he got hit because the way he was facing when they first gave the shot, because it was just a shot of the back of the car and he was
Yeah.
destroyed. I thought he got hit from behind.
Yeah.
I was like, it has
Yeah.
to be, right? And he spun all by himself. It happened. All of the crashes were that way, right?
Yeah.
The margins are wild.
Yeah.
Like keeping it on the track was the hardest part of that race.
Yeah.
100%.
I worry
Yeah.
for Jack sometimes because everyone's always like, guys, Franco's right behind you. Like,
mean,
don't turn around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, guys, just let Jack race his season. Don't bring up Franco.
I feel
Franco's
for
a
Jack
great guy, but like,
because
just let Jack live.
out of all of the rookies that made mistakes, he's got the most pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Red Bull have no. Oh, I don't want to say they have no juniors left. They do have juniors. They have Arvid Lindblad, but
Yeah.
nobody that's 18, nobody that's good enough.
Nobody highly
So
that everyone's
Isaac is
talking about.
under pressure, but he's not under that much pressure, right? I mean, Gabriel Bortoleso, he's under pressure, but he doesn't have anybody looking to replace him.
Yeah.
The only rookie that has a lot of pressure is Jack Doohan, and he has 3 reserve drivers behind him waiting.
4.
4 now?
4.
Kush,
Miney.
Miney, Paul Aaron, Franco Colapinto.
Franco Colapinto, and that other dude.
I love that other dude.
He races in like WEC or something. His name starts with like an A. He was announced after Paul Aaron. That's when we went, oh my gosh, there's a third one. And then a couple weeks ago, they announced the 4th, which was Kush Miney.
I don't remember him. Anyways, 4 reserve drivers waiting in the rings, any of which that could take his spot at any time. So I think that's
Fun
wild.
times.
And these rumors started before he even set foot on the track this season.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, give it a break. Just let him live. It's also
Yeah.
his home race for the first race. That's like also added pressure onto the Franco
And the
Colapinto's
Australian
right behind
curse.
you. And
Yeah.
so
It is. The Australian curse is so strong.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Has an
really is.
Australian ever been? Nobody's ever been on the podium.
I don't think so.
Don't listen to Daniel Ricciardo. He was on the podium. He got second place. Was it then taken away? Yes, but he's stood on the podium before. So
No
has
one's ever
Mark Webber.
Technically finished on the podium or
Yeah.
won this race. So,
Yeah.
as an Australian, so I think that's crazy. I think it doesn't come to mind of drivers we've had on the grid of countries that haven't won. Like I know a
It used to
French
be
driver
Charles,
has won in
but
France.
that changed.
I'm trying to think of like obscure countries.
New
but, like,
Zealand. I don't know.
I don't know that we've ever raced in New Zealand, have we?
Oh,
No.
raced in New Zealand.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying like has other races
Japan.
has a Japanese driver won
Or
in Japan?
China?
I don't think.
There's been
Maybe.
Japanese drivers on the podium.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's ever
Baku?
been a winner.
So
All
I think
those
that
countries?
it's such an
Canada.
anomaly. I feel like it's
Yeah.
crazy because we do have so many great Australian drivers that you know the name. I mean, if you're not a huge F1 fan, you know Mark Webber, you know Danny Ricciardo,
Webber.
but then they've never finished on the podium or won a race in Australia. So I don't know. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Carlos Sainz. That was mighty unfortunate.
Very uncharacteristic.
Very uncharacteristic. Totally his I that one you can't explain.
Yeah, but Alex Slade in the
They-
Williams.
They talked to for the post race press conference. One of the questions that they asked all 3 drivers was, "Were you comfortable continuing under a safety car for all of those, or would you have rather they just red flagged it with service vehicles on the track and whatnot?" And everybody was like, "I mean, if." And Max literally goes, "If you crash under those conditions, then you shouldn't be in F1." And I go, "Carlos."
Fernando?
Yeah.
So like it's
Yeesh.
kind of crazy. But he was mighty helpful throughout this race, according to Alex Albon and James Vowles. He
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him on the pit wall.
we
Or
did see him. He was,
Garage, whatever it was.
he was surprisingly like smiling the whole time.
Yeah.
I was
He
like, "Are
must
you
have
just
done a
that
good job.
happy?"
Yeah,
I mean,
well-
I heard that he was more nervous outside the car than he was inside the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he's also kind of like new regulations next year. James Vowles is probably like, do whatever you want, Carlos.
Yeah.
You're the
Yeah,
love of
like
my
there's
You're my
life.
zero
baby, do what you
pressure on
want.
him. And what's even funnier is like he was used to calling strategy last year at Ferrari, so him doing it again in Australia,
Yeah.
it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
well fitting.
That'd be next team principal. Watch out.
I mean, he would
Yeah.
he would veto all the strategy decisions, just make up his own like in the car
Yeah.
during the race.
Yep.
So like this was not new for him,
Well,
even
what
though he wasn't still.
What
in
I
the
thought was
car.
interesting too was that Alex said he came back on the radio. The lap they pitted, he said, "We're gonna pit. We're pitting too early. Like it's still dry." He comes out on inters and he came back on the radio saying it's too dry. But it was 100% the right lap. Like they nailed it on the lap that they decided to pit. So I really do think that it was like that was the lap. If whoever pitted before, I think McLaren arguably lost out a little bit from pitting the lap they did. I think the ideal lap was the one in between Max and Lando. Max waited too long and Lando went too early for that particular pit stop.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So-
That's fair.
We mentioned Fernando crashing.
Mhm.
That class 3 rain.
No joke,
came out of
That's a lot of
nowhere. Came
All the
absolutely out of
drivers were
nowhere.
like, "I can't believe we're gonna stay out on slicks." Like all of
Yeah.
them were. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, Max came on the radio because I was listening to Max's radio. Max goes, "Are we boxing for inters?"
Yeah.
And GP goes, "No, stay out. We're not going to pit yet." And he goes,
everybody
"Okay."
was saying.
And then
that.
when they finally were to pit him, he was like, "Okay, we're coming in for inters." He goes, "No, everybody's coming in for slicks." And he was like, "Okay." He literally goes, I mean, pardon my French, he goes, "Fuck it, I guess."
We
He
ball.
was like, he was the last. He was the last person I would expect to not want to go on slicks. I feel like he would have been the one to pull the trigger early and be like, "It's dry enough, let's go."
Yeah.
But he was.
I
he
mean,
was
that
like,
just tells you
"No."
how crazy the rain was.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
shoot.
I mean, in defense of Alonso, because you kind of brought it up, I think Gasly kicked up the gravel all over the
Yeah.
Yeah.
over the
They
track
need to get
before
rid of that
Alonso
gravel,
went over
man.
it.
Yeah,
I
I
hate
mean,
that
they
isn't the
gravel.
moved
gravel new or something?
It
Yeah,
is.
they moved it a
Yeah.
lot closer to racing lines
Yeah.
so drivers don't cut the corner.
It's just making a mess.
But now,
Yeah.
it kind of proved just to be a mess and
It was
not
the
really.
was it the
I-
F3 or
the
the
safety
F2 race
cars-
that got flagged because of gravel and they had
F3.
to clean it? Yeah.
I think
yeah.
it was F3. But the thing too is, it happens so often, especially in these conditions, that they just nick it just barely. It starts to scatter throughout the track. But then also when there's a big crash, like when both the McLarens went off, and then after we had a safety car, it takes so much
Oscar.
longer to get that gravel off the track than if it was just grass or something.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You got to sweep so much debris besides just the debris from the car. Now you got to get the gravel off the track too. It takes so much
And
longer.
the grass is smooth and flat, so it's not as big of an issue as the gravel because it's not flat, smooth,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's chunky.
rocky.
Speaking of grass, this was the second time this weekend that Lando Norris decided to become a mower.
Why you gotta bring up Lando Norris in this? Oscar did it too.
Well,
yeah, and I feel so bad for Oscar, but he
but
didn't
Lando did
give
it
up.
twice.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Lando had his lap time delayed in quali. He went in
Oh,
the
yeah,
grass,
yeah.
and then he did it again in the race. They both went off. They were just following each other's line, which is why they both
Yeah.
went off. Max got lucky; he was far enough behind that he'd see where they went off
Yeah.
and go, brake earlier or take a different line through that corner. Everybody behind them obviously, took that line.
He's just
But-
playing lawnmower simulator.
Yeah. Oscar
Frickin'
just,
Farm
just having
Simulator.
a
Oscar
video
just got
game time.
unlucky because he like at that he just went a little bit too fast and took a part of the track that was so wet
Yeah.
that Lando didn't take that, and so it was just
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't give up. Everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, it's over for the Aussie." Oscar Leclerc.
Oscar
Leclerc.
Piastri.
Yeah.
Love that
I'm back
guy.
in Monaco. Okay, apparently.
Yeah.
Oscar.
That's right.
Os-
yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar Piastri had to retire, and then he was like, "No, I spent hours in a tractor reversing at a farm. I know how to reverse a car."
Perfect.
And he reversed
Yeah.
that car out of there. And the cheers during that, though, I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's as if he had just won the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roar of the track. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was insane.
He also got points at the end of the day, so I
Yeah.
say
He did,
mission
yeah.
accomplished.
I
He
was like,
overtook a
who
7-time
cares?
world champion at the end for an
Exactly.
extra point. So
Yeah.
he drove a good race. He had one. He was perfect for what was it, 57 of the 58 laps,
I would say so.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
56 of the
Like
57,
he
whatever it was.
legit could have won. I was so.
He could have won the race.
I was
He was
so upset
faster
about
than
the team
Lando.
orders. Like the
I
team
thought-
orders to hold station.
Okay, let's talk about this
I think
because
that was
I think
just to clear the
Steven
lap
has
cars, right?
a different opinion on this.
Isn't that why?
What?
from a team's perspective?
I was listening to both of the
The-
radios when
Oh.
this happened.
the hold position.
Yeah. I mean,
How do you feel about it?
it's the right thing to do as a team. As a fan, people are gonna hate it. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah,
I
but
think
they're
it's
even
too
on
early.
points.
But when
I
they-
think it's too early.
They're
That's what I'm
even
saying.
on
It's
points.
race one. You say hold
Yeah.
position.
They're even on points.
You just signed your driver till 28. You need
Yeah.
to tell me the driver you just signed till 28 and the other driver who's already signed to 28, who you're singing praises of both of them. You think they can't fight fairly,
Well, it's
lapping cars?
Okay,
It's not that.
So when they told him to slow down, he was going slightly slower, and then they told him again he could fight. That's when he was going faster, but because it was delayed on the radios.
No,
to, like,
he was going
actually play,
faster when they said
So it was, but like partially for like a second.
it was like he was taking 0.3 a lap out of Lando. That's why they told him to hold position. Because he was going to get there, and I think he was going to overtake him, honestly. There's something to be said also about like that home crowd advantage of really like egging you on.
Yeah.
But he was definitely quicker all weekend. This is where I say like the raw talent, and granted it could be conditions, it could just be car setup or whatever. Maybe they have very like slightly different setups, but he was definitely quicker. And he made a mistake on one lap that they both made, and he made a bigger mistake, arguably.
Yeah.
While we're still talking on McLaren, Lando, guess what he did? He held turn 1. Okay? He did it.
I know.
He's done it sometimes
walked away with
before.
that. Mind
And
blowing.
Max almost
I
got
was
him,
like,
too.
oh my
Max
gosh.
almost got him.
It's raining.
It was
Max
close.
is behind him, and he's leading into turn 1. I thought it was going to be a tragedy.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, we can win this. That's crazy. And then I kind of just sat there on the edge of my seat. I was like, ooh, we could win this, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of a constructor, can we talk about how bad Ferrari bottled that one? They were one
I don't
too.
want to talk about it.
You seem very depressed.
Well, you see,
They had
my
it,
thinking
then they lost
was
it.
is that they're the only team that didn't pit. And so the safety car will last through the rainstorm. The track will dry out during the safety car. And then they just wouldn't pit, and they would be in the lead on dry tires when the track would have been dry again.
Yeah.
Obviously, it rained way too much for that, and they came in after everybody
What I don't
else
get is
and
they
lost
told
position.
him class 3 rain.
And he went,
He
that's
went,
a lot
that's
of
a
rain.
lot of rain.
Yeah.
And they
still
got
didn't.
class 3 rain. They still didn't pit.
Still didn't pit.
They pitted way too late. If they,
They
had
weren't
gone
even-
a couple laps earlier, they would have been
They
fine.
They
could've
weren't
been
even
podium
talking about
contenders.
They
pitting
could
on
have been
his
podium
radio.
finishers. Yeah.
That's the thing. On his radio, they weren't mentioning pitting at all, at least that I heard. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But
And-
they did have some good Ferrari commentary
Yeah.
this race.
Sure did.
Oh, those radios were something
All
special.
of them. I mean, Leclerc, you'd think would be used to it, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I do
How-
have to say, he was like, is something leaking? And he's like, what? And they're like, there's my seat. It's full of water. My seat, it's wet or whatever.
He
And
goes, it's
that-
water.
It must be the water. Let's add that to the words of wisdom. I
Yeah.
love that quote. But also, Charles, so there's this thing called rain. It was a rain race.
That's what
Usually
I was
when
saying.
it's raining, your seat gets a little wet.
But I'm wondering if
But-
he thought it was more than
Yeah.
what was
I
warranted.
was like, is it just excessive?
I'm actually
He's
curious if there
sinking.
was something more,
Yeah.
or if he was just like.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I
after
thought was
some
more
time.
interesting than the Charles radio though was Lewis's radio. Lewis, it's gonna take him a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How long I don't know, but he's been so used to a system. They're still figuring out how much information each other wants, what kinds of information.
Yeah, because
when
he kept telling, what's his engineer's name, like Ricky or whatever?
Ricky,
Because Ricky kept repeating things,
Uh,
and he was like,
and
"Don't
he
was
say
like,
things,
I don't
say
care.
it once,
Please.
and that's it."
Yep.
Or
he
don't
was like,
tell
"I'm
me at
too
all."
far." He said the first time, he's like, "I don't need that information." He said it
Yeah.
again. Then and the third, I think it was the third. I don't know if it was the third time he said it or the second time.
Yeah, because
He
they were
goes-
like, "Activate K1."
Yeah,
Yep.
he goes
For
activate
overtake.
K1, and Lewis goes, "I'm too far. When I get there, I'll do it. But right now, leave me alone."
Yeah.
Like he's like
Let me to it.
every time. Yeah, exactly. Every time he was very respectful. Like he's always like, "Please
Yeah.
leave me to it. Please don't say this. Please."
Yeah.
But that time he was like, "Enough. I know what K1 is. I know where it is on my steering wheel. I got it. But like, let me get close enough to overtake some before I click it." So.
Yeah, and even with that, his race engineer would say something, and then he'd always repeat it, and he was like, "Don't repeat it. I don't need it repeated.
Yeah.
Say it once and move on with your day."
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How crazy though, moving to the very end, obviously they pitted, it was horrible. We got you had like 10 laps to go. Now we got 5 laps of green flag racing with Max chasing down Lando. That was potentially it was almost the best part of the race for me.
And what was insane is that like Max kept making up the time. Like it would be
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
a second or like a second and a half, and then boom, it was 0.4.
5/10.
Well, it was
Yeah.
a wet
It was,
track.
like,
Well, what I was gonna say is
insane.
I thought Lando had made a huge mistake. Like when it went from 1.1 to like 0.4 or something, I was like, "There's no way." But I think that was actual lap time. I think he made a small mistake, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
all of that
You
time.
see, I think the variability. I mean, Max is just Max, but also him charging and deploying his battery differently than Lando. Like maybe that made such variation in
Could've.
laps.
Yeah.
Could have.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
either
interesting.
way, Max, hey, it was a race till the end. I really thought he was going to get him.
Yeah.
To be honest,
If I
for
had
some
to-
reason my brain said no, he's not gonna get it. I just like knew. I
You
was
manifested the win
like, no,
I
Lando's
think-
winning this
of
one
course.
I will
towards
say,
the end.
If you ask the Red Bull team, they're going to tell you no. Like, they've told the media no. I think if he had pitted the lap after Lando instead of 2 laps after Lando, he would have come out ahead of Lando, and he would have won the race because it was so
Yeah, he definitely
difficult
could've.
with those. If it played out exactly the same, those 5 laps of green, racing, it's not enough. Even if you have a faster car, to find and execute that rain with wet, to find that place where I can overtake, put a little more power into it, brake a little later, but I'm not going to spin out.
Yep.
With 5 laps left, I think he would have won that race. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Game
I
of
don't know.
inches.
We'll never know because if my mom had balls,
We'll
she'd
see
be my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well said.
I really like it. Let's talk about constructors real quick. Obviously,
Crazy.
McLaren's leading.
Yep.
Double points for them.
First time Lando has led, like for a non-Max Verstappen driver.
Max has led since
2021.
Spain of 2021 or 2.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the streak I was
2022,
talking
right.
about.
2022.
That streak's
Right.
broken.
1,029 days of
Feels
Max
good, man.
Verstappen leading the
Feels good.
championship.
Yep.
And that streak's
So-
broken, and that's why supposedly Ferrari will win. according
Yeah.
to the
I
rumors.
like the sound of that.
Yeah.
The dictatorship
guess.
But
is
no,
over.
Stake being above Ferrari.
Is
I
wild.
was like, and it's also only
Mercedes-
one driver that got them
It is.
those
It was just the one.
points.
Mercedes in
Yeah.
P2, 3rd and 4th. They had the best performance on the grid.
Mercedes-
Mercedes is tied with McLaren, right?
They were so sneaky.
tied.
No, they had
Yeah.
they were 1 point less.
No, it's-
28 and 27.
No, it's tied
It's
now.
27
Is it
With
tied
the-
because
with
of
the points
the-
coming back.
the
yeah.
point coming
he
back?
got back to 4th.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
I'm
saw
pretty sure it's
You
28,
have it in the
27.
notes here too.
I was
27
literally
piece.
on it
No, I
yesterday,
don't.
looking at
Do
the
I really?
constructors.
Yeah, look at
Well-
Constructor Championship.
I do
Yeah,
have it
it's
on the notes, but I could have sworn it was
27,
28, 27.
because
I'm about to fact check you.
Kimmy went from P5 to
to
P4.
this.
Yeah, it's
Because he
27,
got
27.
P4
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
both 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're tied.
So
Oh,
they're tied
Williams
up
is
there.
in fourth.
Yeah, Williams is up
Williams
there.
is up there in 4th, but what's crazy
I mean,
to
it's
me
only the first race.
is
but
Stake didn't have any points last year. It's first race, there's
Yeah.
6 points.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mercedes.
well, they made their goal
Mercedes
for this year.
didn't
so
get
might as well
any-
give up now.
I've seen some
Yeah.
people
Glad
going,
we're
this
waiting for
means
next year."
Hulkenberg can have a podium.
Yeah. Mercedes didn't have any. They weren't talked about at all on the radio. I mean, granted, there were some side comments about Kimi and Kimi making it through.
Yeah.
We saw maybe 1 or 2 of his replayed overtakes, but he made a lot more overtakes than that.
He did.
George was nowhere. George was
Yeah.
like he said he was too slow to contend with Max and Lando, and so he was like, I'm just gonna handle my pace. There's no reason to push.
Yeah.
He just kind of managed his pace, managed his tires. And it worked for him. I mean, he wasn't technically on for a podium, but
Yeah, because
he
I mean,
got
he just
one,
had to
so.
defend what against Alex, and then Kimmy comes behind him, and they tell Kimmy don't overtake, and
Yeah.
or don't fight or anything, and then he's just got that place secured as long as he doesn't do anything stupid and crash out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Final thoughts on Australia?
That was a crazy one.
Lando legacy race, baby. Best race of Lando's career.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
I
a
good.
lot
think
better than Russia.
I would have
Yeah.
been hearing a
Someone
lot of people
talk about that. They were mentioning Russia, and
Yeah.
I was like, shut
bring
Don't
it up.
jinx
up.
it.
Yeah.
We
you
are
don't need to
still
go
in the
there.
middle of a race right now.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I think,
I'm a better commentator than you. You're fired.
Yeah.
I
Stop.
think honestly, and a lot of people have said this too, but I needed to see him win one that was tough.
Yeah.
I need to see
No, that's
him
fair.
be better. I will say
Antonelli
this.
did great.
I
He was my driver the other
absolutely
day.
really.
Yep.
Yeah,
he was
we-
mine. He was my driver of the day. Like
we
when I
talked
voted,
about this.
we talked about
me and
this.
Marina. We
But-
were like, ooh, who to pick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I need to see him win one that was earned.
Yeah.
There was a lot of safety car ones. There was some ones where, Max was nowhere. It was a slow weekend for Red Bull. Then he took that one. And McLaren did have the faster car, but I think people needed to see him win one that was tough. What I don't like is the continued narrative of, like the ESPN headline is Norris beats Verstappen.
Yeah.
Norris beat 19 drivers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was
He
19
beat a
other
lot of
he
people.
was racing
McLaren
against.
is quick. I hated the line in Miami. It was Norris trumps Verstappen.
I prefer
Yeah.
Lando has
Especially because he
landed.
didn't. Norris,
Yeah.
Lando Norris, you can hate me all you want for this, Christina, did not drive a better race in Miami than Max Verstappen. He just got lucky with the safety car.
That happens. Like Max Verstappen got
Max
the
has gotten
luckiest
lucky
with the
too.
safety car
He's
of
got-
all time.
Yeah, he's gotten
in
very lucky too.
2021.
No, he's gotten very lucky too. But my point is, think he needed to win one that was
Yeah.
very, very deserved.
Well,
He
this
showed
one,
everyone.
It makes it clear, this one.
Yeah, it makes it clear
Yeah.
I'm on his level, if not
this,
better.
this wasn't even
I
like
can
a
win it.
hard race. I think this was like he got everything thrown at him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Everything. Restarts, nailed it.
Max's conditions.
Nailed
Nailed
it.
it. Yeah,
Max's,
so-
He
Yep.
outperformed Max in this
I
one.
think it was a very good race to start the season, being like, oh, this season, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
You can tell that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are our predictions for China?
Ooh,
I mean-
I just got to say something. Do we think Kimi could beat Max's record and win a
No.
race? No? Because what does he have to win?
The
one
reason
of the
I
next two
say
races?
that is he has to win one of the next few races, and the reason I say that is because the Mercedes are good, but they were good in these conditions.
Yeah.
Realistically, they're much off the pace of a McLaren. So unless they,
George.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think it could happen,
Dorg.
but I think it'd be cool if it did happen.
Of course.
I don't think it will, but
Yeah.
we shall see. If you
Yeah.
want to predict that, go for it.
I don't want to predict that. I'm just saying if it happened.
If.
Yeah,
If-
yeah.
if
my
So
mom
who
had balls,
do
she'd
you-
be my dad.
Well,
Wow. Someone
Anyways.
was someone a soda. Okay.
Who did you what? What?
who do you want to predict?
Me?
Sure.
Are
yeah.
you telling me to go first this time?
Okay.
Ladies
I
I'll
first.
go
always
first.
ladies first. Okay.
Yes.
Man, it's tough.
What are we predicting? Just China in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the race,
Top 3.
podium, top 3.
Oh, okay.
Lando, Oscar, Max.
Let's go. I'm going to go. Oscar, because he can get his 1/16th of a home race win.
Yeah, there you go.
Charles Lando. Or Charles
Interesting.
Max. I need a Ferrari redemption. I'm a
Me too.
McLaren girly. I love Lando, but I also love Charles. So I need a redemption right there.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I need a podium.
Jason.
I'm, of course, again, hoping for a Leclerc win, followed by Piastri and Max Verstappen. He's inevitable.
Wow, landed on the podium.
That's an interesting one. I think Lando not being on the podium
I'm
is a
mostly
very
just
hot take.
hoping as a Ferrari fan. So
It's okay. It's
realistically,
okay.
it's going to be George Russell on the podium again. But
oh, gosh.
Interesting.
It-
I'd rather see Kimi over George on the podium.
I would. too.
Facts.
Facts. I think everybody would, except for Jason apparently.
well, y'all just trash on George's ability, but
I'm not trashing on George.
decent
I just
driver.
love
Just not a
Kimi
tier
more.
one
Just don't
driver.
like-
that's
yeah,
all.
exactly.
I like
There
Kimi
we
more
go.
than George, but I
do
just
too.
I like all the rookies, and I think that's my.
I do.
might
We have
partially
some
be my
really.
problem.
I love the rookies this year.
all right.
Yeah, I
all
love
right.
all the
right.
rookies, and I'm rookie biased.
Okay. Steven.
Yeah, I actually do believe Oscar will win this as well. I think he's just gonna have a redemption race, and he's just
It's his
gonna.
1/16th home race.
Yeah, something like that.
I loved that tweet. That tweet was so funny.
Yeah, it's almost a year of that.
I know.
Yeah.
Speaking of tweets, Nicole Piastri is my favorite
love
Piastri.
I sometimes
Mm.
I debate between her and Hattie, but it depends on the day.
Yeah, Oscar's
But
sister Hattie is
Oscar,
great
I-
too.
Love you, Oscar, but you're my not least favorite Piastri because
But
I don't
third
know your
favorite
other
Piastri.
sisters. I don't know your other sisters, but out of the 3 Piastris I know, Oscar Piastri is my
my
least
third.
favorite Piastri.
That's fair.
And I
That's
fear
fair.
that's
Yeah.
like that with everybody, but maybe like his girlfriend, Lily, maybe he's her favorite Piastri, but like
I'd hope
most
so.
people
I would
are
hope
like,
so, yeah.
well, maybe his mom could be her favorite Piastri, you know?
I don't know, Who knows?
But no, I'm just like, yeah,
but
Yeah.
I don't know. It was an interesting one. It was what a way to kick off the season. I think I was expecting a bit of a snooze fest. Australia's never a snooze fest actually, but it's always that
Sometimes.
3 a.m. race, or for you guys it was midnight. Between it was 3 or 4 a.m. And I'm expecting to be like trying to stay awake, and I
Yeah.
like could not, like from Formation Lab. Literally, I could not
last
keep
week
my eyes
when
off
I
of it.
was
So.
scrolling on TikTok and I heard that there was a cyclone coming to Australia, I was like, what does that mean for the race?
they canceled
That's
F2
class
race.
They
5
did,
Yeah,
rain
so
right
they
there.
canceled the
Canceled it
F2. I
straight
was
up.
like, oh, are we canceling the race?
Yeah,
Or is it just going to be dramatic? Is it a wet race? I was like, what is this going to mean?
yeah, it was wild. But if no one has any final thoughts, any final words of wisdom, should we?
Anything to add to the words of wisdom?
Is McLaren gonna take the constructors easily? Or
I'm
are
not
they gonna
gonna
have
say
to fight for
I'm not
it?
gonna say easily, but I'm definitely gonna
Ask
say they're
me
gonna
that.
take it.
After like 1/3 of the season, and I'll have my
Interesting.
answer if they're taking it easily or not. But right now, I refuse to answer that question. No comment.
No comment. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. tune in next week. We apologize for the delay, but Australia is a crazy one and spring
Sure
break
is.
is wild. But thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next week, Monday, 11:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, stay tuned on our socials at Lights Out Latest on Instagram and TikTok. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Bye.